to the Coach V Show, your show for personal and professional development with expert insights and interviews to help you meet and we work to be our best and live our best life. With experts that come on, as well as from my experiences, offering to you, the listening audience, life lessons, success frameworks, and behavioral models to work to be your best and live your best life. Make sure to tune in every Motivation Monday here on Island City, powered by Dash Radio from Hollywood, California, as well as on my Facebook Live, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Coach V. And then also the podcast, the Coach V podcast on Spotify, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. Tonight, I am super excited. I have a family member who is going to bring some tremendous value and insight about her journey and what it is that her and her husband, Chris, are doing. Our guest tonight on the Coach V Show is Mokiana, Tauteoli, and her husband, Chris, Tauteoli, are independent self-publishers and creator of My Little Tongan. My Little Tongan is a series of Tongan children books in English and the Tongan language. 3 books published and available right now for purchase is Alafapeti, Faka-Tonga, Famili, and Lau Mata'ifika, numbers 0 through 10. My Little Tongan, Mokiana and Chris Tauteoli, grew up in California. Chris in Purdue, San Bernardino. Shout out to the IE and Mokiana in the Bay Area. Shout out San Bruno. Shout out Sneath Lane. Shout out Tanforan. And shout out Rolling Pin Donuts right there on San Bruno Ave, Vivid. And so this is what Chris and Mokiana say. At the time, our parents were both immigrants from Tonga when they were growing up, a small island in the South Pacific. We both watched our parents work hard to provide for our families, even though English was not their first language. They made sacrifices along the way so we could live a life and have the opportunities of that the American dream offers us all. Growing up Tongan in the United States, the culture is embedded in us. At home, our parents and grandparents spoke to us in the Tongan language, even though we studied English at school. Our mannerisms are a reflection of the Tongan culture. In any family events, such as weddings, birthdays, funerals, there were certain Tongan traditions that needed to occur, and we were aware of it. Now, as adults, and with kids of our own, we see the language and some traditions slowly fading away, and it's because we are choosing not to apply these into our daily lives. We made it a goal to continue to teach the culture within our own little family as much as our parents did. It was difficult to find resources such as books for our children to learn the basics of the Tongan language. So we decided to create a simple board book on our own. We had no idea how to do it, who to talk to, or where to start. It was the vision of holding a Tongan children's book in our hands that started a passion within us to find out on our own. We're not fluent in the Tongan language, but we can understand the conversation when spoken to. So we decided to focus on books that are just simple and informative, especially when it comes to the development practices of learning with children. We wanted to start with the basics in the Tongan language. Pacific Islanders are natural storytellers. Let's give kids the opportunity to see that they too can publish their own books and share their stories. Currently based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and are on Facebook and Instagram at My Little Tongan. To get your order of these books today, go to www.mylittletongan.com. The Coach V Show in Island City is juice to have my cousin, my little sister, my dad's sister, daughter here on the show. Mokiana Kamisese, Tauteoli. Welcome to the Coach V Show.
Thank you so much, Coach B. It's definitely a great pleasure to be here and to share a story and also to be here to speak with you.
It is my excitement that I get to see another author who was the quietest cousin in the entire family, never said much, always quiet. And then, I go to college, I move off, was the last time to Boise when I saw you as a kid. Now you're grown, married to an awesome young man from the IE, Chris. You guys are raising a family, and you're on this new venture of being an author and securing our culture for the next generation in terms of language. Tell us, Moki, what is your story? What is your genesis point?
Yes, I can definitely share my story. It definitely started like what you mentioned when I was young. My parents immigrated here in 1988 into San Bruno, California. That's where I was born and raised. My siblings, I'm the youngest of four, and my three siblings were born in Tonga. And so I was the only one born here in America. And growing up, I've been seeing my parents and both of them basically just they worked hard, they learned the
Mm-hmm.
language, they did anything they can for us to live the life, the American dream. And even though when we're younger, we didn't understand that we didn't have much, but what we had was good enough.
Mm.
That I think my parents were definitely the great example to me, especially my mom and my dad. My dad, every morning, he'll come with a newspaper, sit in the living room, and just read everything. He would always tell us what's going on in the news. He always encouraged reading to us when we were younger. The same thing with my mom. She always shared her stories in Tonga of how intelligent her family is and how they're very business minded. And so they encourage us to always do something bigger and better, but with great value. And so they definitely wanted us to have a good education, wanted us to work hard for what we want in life, and also to just be a good person in general. Um,
Mm.
so growing up in San Bruno, California, I had great friends. I had a great neighborhood. I lived in a very diverse neighborhood.
Right, right.
Yeah, there's different types of, growing up Tongan in California, you just feel like everyone is Tongan because you have Tongans living in every neighborhood, and having that culture growing up, it just felt like you weren't any different. Our neighbors were Hispanic, Indian, and so we grew up in an area of diversity. Um, and then like going to college as well, that's when I started to realize, there are different kind of races that are more dominant than others. I went to school in San Francisco State University. Again, it's another liberal university. But there, like what you said, I was very quiet. I am still very quiet.
Mhm.
So I had to sit there and learn about other races and how they react to different race. In college, people ask me, "What are you?" And I'm like, "I am Tongan," but they don't know what Tongan is because Tonga is such a small island. It
Mm, mm.
didn't really bother me because it just shows that not many people know what Tongan people are. And so in college, I went to college for business management, and my goal was to own my own little coffee shop, and that's the reason why I went to business management. But as time went by, my mindset definitely changed. I went more for learning to be confident and to speak up, because
Mm.
you also have to be a leader. And so I enjoyed my leadership classes to know when you want something in life or you want to be an example to others, there's different ways of how you can show people, and that's in your leadership skills.
Mm.
And so I went to college for 2 years, and then I went and served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 18 months. And I went to the Dominican Republic. That's where I learned Spanish. I was
Right.
looking to learn Tongan because in the church, they would assign you to different places. And I was hoping Tongan because I really want to learn Tongan. Like what you mentioned before, growing up with my parents, especially my grandma, they spoke Tongan to us. And going to school where I was learning English, English was primarily my first language.
Right.
And so I wanted to learn Tongan just so I can have that conversation with my elderlies and to also have a plan for my kids. So when I do have kids at the time, I can teach them Tongan. But
Right.
then I lived in Spanish speaking. And
Right.
so
Right. 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 Right.
I learned how to speak Spanish and I speak more fluent Spanish, which also was a great benefit. I love the Dominican Republic. It's another island. their personality and their culture is pretty much like a Polynesian culture. So there were a lot of similarities between Tongan and Dominican Republicans, um, or Dominicans. And
Hmm.
that was such a great example for me. I think at that point, my confidence of speaking up and also talking and having conversations with other people grew from that experience, because I had to leave my hometown and to live in a whole different island that I have no experience of living in before. And so when I came back into college, my last 2 years, I feel like that's where a lot of my ideas of things I want to do in life and my career path. The reason why we chose to stick to the Tongan culture is because growing up, I had been seeing the Tongan traditions within our family, especially my parents,
Mm.
especially my mom. She would always share us how the culture is and ways that we have to act in front of people. My dad, he passed away when I was 15.
Mm.
So it was basically my mom that was raising us from when I was 15 till now. And so there were a lot of questions I always had to ask her about why we had to do certain things or why we have to act a certain way when we're at a family setting. And when it comes to funerals, weddings, birthdays, my mom has a storage full of the Tongan mats, all the
Mm-hmm.
traditional things that we would use as gifts. And so my mom would have us come with her to storage to grab those. And I wouldn't understand how she knew what type of match she would grab, but it was always an interest in my mind. It always resonated in me that, if my mom passes away, who's going to continue this tradition?
Right, right.
Learn it. And so my siblings and I, we always talked about it. We always joked around about it. Like, we're just going to sell those. We're not going to hold on to those.
Right.
um, Living in America and the diversity of culture, it's rich. And that's what people here love. They love diversity, they love the differences. And not knowing how the world was going to be in a couple years later, it's something that we definitely feel like makes us unique as an individual, that we are
Right.
Tongan, we are from a small island living in America. Our parents immigrated here for us to have a better life. And so after I graduated from college, I decided to move to Salt Lake City, Utah. And the reason is because I wanted to get out of the Bay Area just to see something different.
Mm.
I feel like serving the Dominican Republic definitely has opened my eyes that anything is possible in the world. Um, and that in order for you to learn and to grow, so definitely get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And so I moved into Utah, and I've been here for about 7 years. I believe 1 year after I lived in Utah, I met Chris, uh,
Mm-hmm.
husband. He couldn't be with us right now because he is watching the kids. And it's just us two that watch our kids, so we do take turns. I did want him to join in with us so he can share his story, but most likely in another time he'll come and share his story because he definitely has a great story of how the culture has been embedded in his life. He's
Absolutely.
very smart in knowing the Tongan history and the families. He knows my family history more than I do. So
Right, 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 right.
he has that knowledge for that. So Chris and I, we were just friends. He We had mutual friends, and so we always hung out. Um, but we realized that we had the same values as well. We respected our parents. We respected our friends. We wanted to make sure that we were very family oriented. We worked hard. We were educated, and so those were the values that I did see in a spouse that I would wanted to get married with. And so we dated and we got married. Um, in our wedding, that's when we realized how much the Ton culture was in our family.
Oh
Um,
yeah. It gets real. It gets real during the wedding, right, Moki?
yes. Even till this day, we watch our wedding a video and it's on YouTube, and we see how much history is being shared in our wedding.
Right.
Family members, when they speak in your wedding, they're sharing the history of how you're related to them, where it goes back to your ancestors.
Yeah.
So of course, at a wedding day, you don't really recognize that because you're so focused on your wedding. It's
Yes.
everything else coming to your mind.
But in
Um,
reflection,
yes,
right?
definitely. And so recently we've been watching our wedding video and we've been just in awe of all the history that's been shared in the wedding in with our family members, with our aunts and uncles. And the Polynesian people, they love telling stories, and those stories were shared in our wedding. Um, and so when we got married, we definitely made goals of what we wanted, how we wanted to be, what type of parents we wanted to become.
Right, right.
And we definitely wanted to bring in the Tongan culture within our children. And the reason is because we are in an age group where we have a lot of friends that are young couples as well. They don't really know much about the Tongan culture
Right.
because it's not their fault. It's because their parents didn't see that as a priority, or we're just so mixed into what they would say the Western world.
Yeah, right.
And it's not a bad thing at all. It's perfectly fine. It's because we are living in America, in the United States. Our peers, our friends, our neighbors, we all are finding ways of the same interest in everything. And so there are ways where the Tongan culture can be very old, and pretty much some families feel like it's not needed now because those are the old ways. These are the new improved ways of how we can live. But for Chris and I, we definitely wanted to pick and choose what we feel like would be best. And the reason is because we do have a lot of friends that were wanting to learn about the Tongan culture. We would have
Right.
conversations about it. They want to know about their history. They want to know where their families are from, how to say certain things. And so that's what caught an interest in us. So when we had our first son, he was born in 2018. So he's going to turn 2 on March 7th. So he's still a young one who doesn't really talk as much, but he talks a lot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when we had him, I love books. I love reading, and it definitely started when I was younger. My parents always dropped us off at the library.
Mm.
After school, they would leave us at the library till closing to make sure that we were done with our homework, and that we also would read any books that were interested. And I loved walking down the aisle, the smell of the books. And that's what always caught my interest. Even on summertime, my parents still took us to the library.
Right.
Um, and even during college, I worked at a library. And that's how
You
much,
did. Right.
yeah, I was in a library assistant because that's how much I love being in the library. And so I bought a lot of books for my kid. And there are different types of books. But I love board books for him because he likes to throw things around. So I wanted to make sure it was definitely stable for him to hold. And then my husband and I just had a conversation. He said, "Why won't we buy Tongan books for him?" And I said,
Right.
"Okay, let's look for some Tongan books."
Yeah.
Went online,
And there
look.
aren't any.
Yeah, there aren't
Right.
any.
Right. Is that what you
And
found that, right?
yeah, there's actually probably like one or two, um, but they were just paperback books, but it wasn't pretty much what we felt like would definitely catch the eye of our son, or what we feel like would catch an eye of our kids. And so we didn't find any books. And I feel like that's where the light switch went on in my head, to a point where I felt like we need to create board books. And so it was just a thought at the time. But then when I had my daughter, who was born in 2020 in January, so I wasn't working at the time. I was on maternity leave, and it was the pandemic just started.
Mm-hmm.
It was late at night, and I was cleaning up the house, and my son's board books were all over the floor. And the thought came to me again: you should create Tongan board books for your kid. And it was at that moment where I couldn't sleep. It was
Mm.
in my mind. And I feel like that happens to many people. When there's something that comes into your mind and you just can't sleep because of it, that's your passion. That's
Mm.
calling you to do something. And that happened to me and my husband. We went for a couple of days not sleeping because we just wanted to do it. Like, we need to figure out how to do it. We didn't know how to do it, who to reach out to, or what we can. So we're grateful for technology and the internet that we did a lot of research. We had to first research on the legal aspect of what we can do and what we can do to be protected. And then we research more on the Tongan language. We're not fluent, but we do understand it. Uh,
Mm.
People are spoken it to us. And we wanted to make sure that we focus on our audience. Who is our audience? It's children. And learning Spanish in the Dominican Republic, I learned that if you learn it in a more simple way, where you feel like you can connect to it because it's something that catches your eye, you'll learn it even more. So we
Mm.
focus on simple words. Keep it simple for little kids to learn just a couple words and then they'll grow from then. So we did a lot of research.
Right.
And we also had to figure out how to draw the illustrations. Uh,
Hmm.
I had to buy an iPad and I learned digital illustrations from YouTube. And
Wait,
I
wait, wait. You guys illustrated your own books.
no, we helped illustrate our own books.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is because we definitely came up with the idea of how we wanted it to look like. I did digital illustrations, but more of without the facial expressions because I feel like that was more difficult.
Right.
So, and I was thinking I can do a book without the face because that's pretty much what's in now. There's a lot of digital illustrations where it's not showing the facial expressions,
Right.
it's pretty much the body and showing um, a person.
Right.
But then we felt like if we're going to come out with a book, you might as well just go all the way and do it where you feel like when you look at the book, you know it's a Tongan book.
That's right.
And so my husband said, why not we just use our kids, so when they can look at that book, they can say, that's me. And then you have other Tongan kids looking at the book, they say, oh, that's a Tongan person. So you can automatically know who it is.
Right.
And in right,
Build connection. Right.
yes.
Connection. Right. Because our Tongan
And
kids will look at some of these books and some of these movies, right? But it's amazing too that in this generation right now, I mean, we got Palangi kids and other kids look at Moana and be like, "That's me,"
yes.
right? So the illustration, a picture is 1,000 words. But keep going, please, Moki, keep going.
No, I definitely agree. The only example that we had there was Moana.
Right.
And we love Moana. And I feel like that was also probably another inspiration for us because Moana was playing in our home every single day.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Moana was definitely another inspiration of how we wanted our kids to look in these illustrations. So I had research to find an illustrator and I found one and she's actually from SoCal, from Southern California. She's in college. Her name is Alex, and with us, we don't really illustrators. They can pretty much cost a lot,
Right.
and because they're very talented. And so we were on a very tight budget. We're both full-time parents. We have 2 kids, and so we're trying to make sure that we stay within our budget so we can just make it through. And so when I found this illustrator, I looked into her portfolio. She had nothing that looked like our illustrations. But for some reason, something told me just use her,
Right.
just ask her to and work with her. And so when we first started with our illustrations, so we both worked on it together. She would work on some sketches, I would work on some sketches, and whatever she would work on, I would either change or edit because I didn't feel like it didn't sit with me that that's how the book I would want the book to look like. Um, and so she started with a couple of nice sketches, but I feel like it didn't look realistic to me as if it was a Tongan person. So it took about 2 or 3 months to finally get to the illustration that we have right now. And she was actually amazed by it because she felt like she didn't know that she can draw that as well.
Right.
And so we both were learning at the same time, and we both learned what we can create within these books. And so, yeah, we created these books, and I added my brother's kids, And so there's a total of 11 of us.
That's awesome.
And so they're actually real pictures of my kids and my siblings' kids. And we used those pictures to create these ones. We also included my parents and also my siblings. And we wanted to create real people with real story because that's what we wanted to portray. We wanted to portray in these Tongan books of real people so others can definitely relate to it. But when we created these books and we launched, I feel like our audience definitely changed from what we thought we would have. We have a lot of customers that are, what would you call it? They're mixed relationship. So
Right.
we had a lot of moms who are Balangi, who are not Tongan, reach out to
These are people or adults that have married into the culture that are not
yes, yes.
right.
Those are the majority of our customers.
And you weren't thinking that that would be a niche market for you. You thought it would just be kids,
Correct.
right?
Yes. I was definitely thinking it's just going to be for Tongan kids just to read. But when they reached out to me, my heart just turned towards them. And that's when I felt like we're going to keep it simple. We love that we kept it simple, but we definitely want to have them feel involved as well. So in the Tongan culture, there's 4 pillars, Tongan values, and that's something that we will share in our future books. And one of them is called Tauhiva, and that means to keep warm relationships, how they would describe it. And so that's one of the main values of being of a Tongan. And so that's something that we want to keep within our books. We don't want it to only just be full Tongan people. We just want it with anyone that's interested of the Tongan language, but also those who married into a Tongan family. We don't want them to feel left out. We don't want their kids to look at it and say, oh, those are only full Tongan kids. No, these are you too. These are your ancestors. These are people that you can relate to. I have a friend who is Hispanic, and he just found out that his family is also from Iran. So now he wants to learn more about that part of his family.
Right.
Like the same thing goes with the Tongan culture. There's a lot who are mixed, and that Tongan culture is probably 5% in them, but they want to learn about that. And so that's why we have these books, just so we can help others, not just mainly Tongan people, but those who are interested to learn about it, pretty much plant the seed in them to know, here are resources, but you want to learn more, you can definitely ask your relatives. We definitely, our main goal for the My Little Tongan, which our motto is preserving the culture one book at a time, but also strengthening the bond generations. I feel like with my husband and I, we've been doing a lot more research, a lot more editing, and we're not really the editors of these books. It's our parents, it's our aunts, uncles, it's the elderly people. And so we're building this bond between us and the elderly people, and we're actually having fun with it.
Right.
When it comes to business, I feel like when you have that mindset of making money, it's not going to work. But when you have that mindset of having a passion, it's, money is not a problem with it. And I feel like that's with my husband and I, and also my siblings. They're also involved in this. I definitely share with them all the work that we do and get their feedback. My mom is my #1 supporter. Always helps me. She was there from the beginning. Every morning she would text like 5:30 in the morning. How's it going? Full time. I work full time, and then when I get off in the afternoon, my husband goes to work, so I watch the kids. So the only time we actually get to work on these books are either on our days off, or we would switch off like right now, or late at night when the kids are sleeping. And so my mom, she always makes sure that we stay grounded and that I'm mentally and emotionally okay and not overwhelmed, because it is a lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like now it's been fun. I think we launched in December 9th, and within 2 days it sold out. And
Wow.
it was definitely something that I did not expect. I was thinking, oh, we're just gonna sell like a couple, or I can do just like 2 orders a day. But I didn't think that many people would want the book.
So when was your first launch date, Moki?
So our launch date was on December 9th of 2020.
And sold out.
And it sold out within 2 days. And we sold over 1,200 books. And so this is a small business. So the only people that are packing these orders are myself and my husband. And I had 3 of my cousins that live here in Utah help me pack these. So we would stay till 2 in the morning packing these orders. And I had to work the next day at 7 in the morning. And so it was pretty much hard. And it's still hard till this day to try to balance our time. And then with our kids, I don't want my kids to feel like we're leaving them on the side because we're focusing on this business. But because of how much response that we had from this, it definitely motivated us that we need to keep going. We need to create more. And so we sold out. And so it took a couple of times for it, or a couple of weeks for it to restock. And then we dropped our 3rd book, and then we opened up again in February. And so it's been great. I think the responses from our customers, their feedback has been great. A lot of them had shared stories of being in the Polynesian family and wanting these resources as well, but they didn't know where to start or where to go. And so we definitely are grateful to be where we are right now. And I feel like because we just barely started in this business, we have a lot of ideas, but we still want to remember our why. Why did we start this? We don't want to lose the value or the originality of why we started this. But we definitely want to motivate and promote it to others. So if they have ideas of creating their own books, they can create their own books as well. This is just the beginning. You know, there's a ton of topics in the Tongan culture that you can definitely share with others. There's a lot of stories from different families in the Tongan culture that they would like to share. And these are something that my husband and I are learning while we're going through it. And it's pretty interesting, but also it's pretty amazing to see young children read these books. We have a lot of customers tag us in their stories, and they're little kids actually looking at the book and reading them. I was really nervous at first when we launched. And I feel like it's because, like we said, I was quiet, and I am still quiet in a way. And social media to me is, I don't like social media. I think the toughest part about being in this business is going out on social media and putting yourself out there. Because I feel like I enjoyed it creating the books behind the scene, but once we dropped a sneak peek, that's when I felt the pressure. And I feel like it's more of a mental, what would you call it, where you have to control what you're thinking. That's when the thoughts came into me. What are they thinking? You know, they don't.
Yeah.
What are they expecting? And I feel like once we dropped a sneak peek, that's when I felt the pressure from everyone that's been wanting it. And I feel like to this day, it still happens at times where I feel like I don't want to post on social media, or I don't want to be on social media because it's just a lot going on. But I'm grateful to be able to have supporters such as my husband and my family to keep reminding me, you know, everyone has their opinions on social media. Everyone's going to always say something on social media. As long as you just put your true self out there and just continue to do what you feel like is good, that's all that matters.
Yeah, what an amazing story. But so I gotta get, because when this when this show airs, it's gonna be interesting, because the first thing I'm gonna get, unless you say this and put it out there right now, is who all the Tongans are gonna be like, who are her parents? Who are Chris's parents? Right? That's the first. My mom is going to be like, you should have had them talk about who their parents are. All the Tongans out there all over the world want to know, right? My mom and dad are always saying that. And so if you would please, as we start to unpack this and roll through this and search for life lessons and ask you what your life lessons are that you could share with us in this entire I mean, just what a miracle. What a miracle, right? I mean, you went to school to own a coffee shop. You met a dude named Chris when you moved after college to Salt Lake. You got started a family, and then you're cleaning, and you're like, you know what we need to do? I see all these board books. How come we don't have anything like that, right? And that's really the number one. This is the number one rule of business, and then this is the affect that you also learned that I deal with my clients in 29 industries that I coach, teach, train, keynote speak, and all that, right? Is that you gotta find, and your service or product has to adjust to the need and want of the market. If there's no need from the marketplace, then there will be no customer. So you're fulfilling a need, right? And then number two is what I'm always telling my people all the time that are my entrepreneurs is like, don't wait around and wait till you feel it's perfect. You need to launch the product to be able to really get the feedback from the market, what the market really wants. And they're like, no, but I believe in my product. This is the product, I sell this barbecue sauce, or Coach B, I got this barbecue cake. I know you feel it's good and your family feels it's good, but you either have to take it to a research population that don't know you and can give you real feedback, or you got to launch it in a very inexpensive way that doesn't break the bank or you, and then the market will tell you, hey, Coach V's Hafkasi kids, they need to see this. My wife needs to see this. I need to see these books, right? So before we unpack the myriad of all of that I just talked about, please introduce us to your parents, and then also your grandparents, and then also Chris's parents and grandparents as you know it, please.
Yeah, so my dad is Luciate Kamisese, and he is from Wihambatu. His parents are Latu Kamisese and Nita Halaunga. My mom is Seluvaya Manoa, and Manoa is her maiden name, and she is from Pelhake and Nomuka, and her parents are Taninoa Manoa and Letele Tuivai. So those are my parents. And Chris, so Chris's parents is Fifita, Tauteoli, and Mapeli Moala. And both of my kids are named after both of them.
And okay, so, third one is your turn. Okay.
Yes, third one is I already told them. I said,
you and Moki handle that. My bad. Just introduce I know how Tongan you get.
Yes, with the names. And so his dad is from Hateho, and his mom is from Pea. And so I don't know the names of his grandparents, but they do have a huge family as well. And his parents are very knowledgeable of the Tongan culture and the family history. And so that's where Chris gets it from. And so I'm grateful to be married to Chris as well, because he definitely likes to hold definitely the Tongan culture in him.
Oh my goodness, I think I'm related to both of you.
Yes, you are.
Because the Haideo side, that's that's my family. And then when you talk about Grandpa Tangnoa and Grandma Tele, my favorites right there, right? So it's really interesting because even though our grandma Letele Lahi was quiet, she was fierce.
Yes.
For those of us who really know grandma. And so, and then we know Tangnoa was fierce. He was a fierce businessman, entrepreneur, right? Auntie Sue is a go-getter. Your mom, Selu, right? Man, I would sometimes feel sorry for your dad because she is a strong Tongan woman, right? And yet she still thinks at such a higher level. So this is what I'm getting at. Being around Grandpa Noah, who was just fierce, right? Right. To me, that's how I remember Grandpa Noah was. He was an adamant dude. When he wanted something, come on, Moki, am I wrong or right?
I mean, you're right.
That's how Grandpa Noah was. And so that's kind of how Auntie Sue and your mom
and my mom,
right?
yes.
They are just like, they don't beat around the bush. They get to the point. And there are women in our culture, but freaking strong Tongan women. And then
Yes.
your dad is so mild-mannered, right? That's how I remember him. And so my first year at Davis was probably the last couple times I saw your dad. And then he took me and Uncle Alo to Reno. And then, oh yeah, that was when I was younger. But when I was cruising around, coming to Grandma Teles, I would be around you and the family. And you were still such a kiddo. Um, how did all of those influences eventually make Moki go, yep, that's the guy I want. I'm moving to Salt Lake. Because even though you're quiet, when you're like, I'm getting out of here, I'm gonna go spread my wings, I need to go, right? I mean, who influenced you to have, even though you were quiet, that you had that kind of courage?
I love that you asked that because you hit it right on the nail. It's definitely my dad and my grandma and my mom and my aunt and my grandpa. And I feel like that's something I forgot to share because when I first started the board books, it was them that I had in my mind the whole
Mm,
time. And I feel like they were with me while I was creating these books. It's through their example that they were able to mold me to the young woman that I am right now. And you're right about my grandma. She was quiet, but like what our parents had shared, she was very intelligent in
yeah.
school. But she's so loving and caring and non-judgmental. She accepted anyone and everyone into her home, and she never made you feel indifferent.
Right.
Goes with my dad as well, and my mom and my aunt Sue. Whenever they wanted something, they would get it. They
Oh
don't.
my goodness, those
No one
two.
can stop them. Yeah. And the same thing with my mom. And I feel like she did do that to me as well when I was creating these books. She motivated me. She told me, just do it. Just be strong. And that's pretty much what she would tell me all the time. Even ever since I was young till now, she would always tell me, be strong. You can do it. Just be strong. And I feel like getting that confirmation from her is what puts a fire under me to keep going. But definitely my parents, my grandparents, and it's just right now that for you to bring that up, it definitely it's them. It's them who helped me put that fire under me to move out of Utah, to find a young man like Chris, and to not settle for anyone less.
Mm,
To continue to work hard as parents, taking care of two kids, and to have a side business to create these culture books. And like what you said, to definitely listen to our audience, to our customers for their needs and help them feel needed or help them feel included in this whole journey. And so, yeah,
just amazing, right? I mean, we come from that.
yeah,
And people are like, oh my gosh, you never gave up. You grew up in the hood. You couldn't speak English. Now you get paid thousands of dollars to go speak English. You're so amazing. No, in my family, it's like, and really, Moki, right? My real courage comes from I don't have another choice. It's
hmm,
either I swim or drown.
yes,
So it's like people
exactly.
are like, oh my gosh, you never quit. You've been in the industry. We've seen you go from not getting hired to speak to now you get hired all over the place to Zoom speak from my office here at home, right? It's like it didn't take much courage. It's just like this is just what we do. It's like I
Yeah,
have to or I die. It's not
yes,
that courageous. It's like I
it's
really
in
don't.
our
And
blood.
really, I think what our family would say, right, Moki, which is my next question about faith, right? Because faith in scripture says, in the Bible says, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And there's all kinds of nuances for that scripture. But talk about faith. So here's the example from your family where you grew up in every single day, right there off of Tanforan, while we were eating donuts at Rolling Pin, right? It's just like we see that, like your dad would just get up every day and go make it happen and go to a
Yes.
job site and go get work. Grandpa Noah would wake up I mean, he was like 60 something years old. He still went and created a janitorial business, right? To
Mhm.
clean the malls and like stuff like that. And like our mom and dads, right? So like now what about the faith? Because the one thing our parents, right? And you just tell me your experience, like we don't mess around with church.
Mhm.
Like it's like uh and they say it in different kind of ways, right? But it's like aka ako kekepoto, like go to school so you could learn and gain wisdom and knowledge, right? And then
Mhm.
ngawe malohi, which is work hard, right?
Yes.
Lau hotoi tapu, read your Bible,
Yes.
like pray every day, right?
Day.
So
Mhm.
that faith component. And I think you guys went to the ward in Millbrae, yeah?
Yes.
You guys were at the Millbrae ward when I was younger, and I would come visit. We would go to those dances and all that stuff. How much did faith and going to church and believing in that he who created us is, and we're created in an image and the likeness of him who created us, that we are also creators. We can manifest that we want what we want in life, leadership, and business. How did that faith play along for you and Chris in terms of this? You don't know who to talk to, you don't know an illustrator, you don't know the publication laws to make sure to hold so nobody else can take your ideas. How did faith play along in that?
Yeah, faith in our lives definitely started when we were younger. Both of our parents are very strong in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and
Mhm.
Chris and I, we both have different stories. Chris has his story of him falling away from the church, and he's seen that lifestyle of being away from that, but then he learned and came back. As for me, I feel like when my dad passed away, that's when I got stronger into the church,
Mm.
that faith that I will feel him with us or see him again.
Mm.
Um, just like that scripture, faith without works is dead. And that's
Amen.
something that my mom has embedded in us until this day. She would tell us, stay strong, pray always, and trust in the Lord. Trust
Mm.
in all that you do. And I feel like with that, it gives you a sense of peace. But of course, it doesn't take away the troubles. You're always going to have struggles in life. You're always going to go through something, but it gives you the strength and the peace to move forward and to do the work. And I feel like with having faith in God, for me personally, it has helped me in everything I do. And I still continue to pray every day. I still continue to read my scriptures. And I feel like at times when I don't, that's when I feel like my life is just a mess. And of course, it happens. There's times I do have that, and I have to go back, remember, start to the basics, pray, read your scriptures, and trust in the Lord. And in this journey, that's what we had to do. We had to trust in the Lord. We had to follow the Spirit and to know who to contact, what to do, what to publish, when to publish. When is it? Because there was a time where we did felt pressured from the public of wanting these books now,
Right,
and
right.
yeah. And so my husband and I were like, oh, we need to get these out now because people are seeing that we're working on it. But then we had to remind ourselves, no, how did we begin this? It was because of that feeling of the Spirit telling you to create books. And then of course, as we trust and learn through the process, we will know the right time to do it. And so faith is a huge impact in both of our lives.
Well, and then what about this? It's like you still come across like that same soft-spoken girl that I've always known, right? But I'm 45 years old. You're way younger than me, so we never really hung out, been around each other. But how is it that like you found a man who's Tongan that accepts a woman who will say what she wants, say what she feels, right? And is not scared to chase after her dreams. So I feel like that from my spouse. The number one person in my adult life that impacted my life is my girlfriend, my college girlfriend, who became my wife. Because anytime I want to make an edit, I want to make a move, I change career, she's like, let's roll. Like, let's go, right?
Mm-hmm.
My parents and definitely my family, in my childhood years, but as a man, like, you found someone who really accepts all of you, an educated Tongan woman who comes from a Tongan family of faith that has history and a culture, and he accepts and allows you to grow that. What does that feel like?
It feels great.
Right?
Yeah, it feels great to definitely have your best friend to understand. And he pretty much knew how I was because we were friends for 2 years before we actually committed into a relationship. And I think that's what built our relationship because we're close friends. We both served callings in our church.
Mm.
We got to know each other and we knew what we're getting ourselves into. But I feel like with him, the same way that I am with my family, how they've been an example to me, I feel like his mom as well has been a greater example to him as well.
Mm.
And our parents do play a major role on who we see as our spouse. We see relationships in a younger age, we recognize the relationships through our older cousins, through our old or with our parents, and we see what we like and we see what we don't like. And I feel like the same way with him, he has strong women in his life. And I feel like he saw that within me and he wanted that in his life as well. And so now we're married and we're gonna be married for 3 years. So we're still babies in the marriage life.
Mm-hmm.
So far within the almost 3 years of being married, it's been great because we did get married a little bit older. Um, and I feel like because we're a little bit more mature, we understand relationships a little bit better and what we wanted in a relationship. And so,
That's amazing. Man, how about how fast the time went? We only have about 9 minutes left in the show. So let's do this. Moki, is there any final shout outs? Take 2 to 3 minutes and just talk about shout outs. And then also, what's your message to the world, Moki?
yeah, so I definitely want to shout out my family, my mom, my Aunt Sue, of course, your parents and your siblings, my siblings, Richard, Rosie, and Isaac, and Fatu. They've all been a great influence in me, and they also helped me remember who I am and what I can do. But most importantly, my husband, Chris. I wish he
Right?
was here to share his story. We might have to have another chance so he can share his story. He
Oh,
has,
we can make another chance. We
oh
love
yeah.
both of them. And we
He
love
can he
Pastor
can bring
Chris.
it back to stories about Tonga from way back of his family and why he's so invested in this business. Also, just want to shout out everyone in the Bay Area. Even though I moved out of the Bay, I'm still a Bay Area girl. Every
Oh,
and say and
uh-huh.
he comes from the Bay Area, and it's because of the creativity in California. I feel like that's what helped me remember who I am and to stay grounded. I also just wanted to thank everyone that's been supporting our business, My Little Tongan. Of course, it's available online, www.mylittletongan.com. That's where you can purchase your books. We are on Facebook and Instagram. We post every other day of content of how to say certain words, of the Tongan culture, and pretty much anything you want to hear, you can let us know. We are an open book. You can DM us, message us. We're all in this together. And the message that we want to share about My Little Tongan is to preserve our culture one book at a time. And it's
Mm.
all only those who are Tongan. It's for everyone and anyone who's interested in this culture.
That is awesome, Moki. So now, for this portion, for everyone out there that's listening and tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. We have Mokiana here, one of the co-founders with her husband Chris of My Little Tongan. You can find them at mylittletongan.com. And here, I'm going to put her through the hot seat for just 2 questions because time is running out. But we're going to have her come back in the future. So Moki, on air now, can I get you to promise every time you launch a book, can you come launch that book here on the Coach V Show? Can we launch it on the show?
Yes, we will. And we are going to have a couple of books coming out soon. So you'll be seeing us soon.
That'd be great. So Moki, here's my first question for the Coach V hot seat. and you got about 30 seconds to respond, or you could be really short and I'll move on to more questions. Culture. We should preserve our culture. What are your thoughts on that, Moki?
All I can think about is our ancestors. They worked so hard to where we are right now. We are right now because of our ancestors and the culture that they have and the decisions they made for us to be where we are right now. Culture is what makes us unique from everyone else.
What about when I say trust that calling that won't allow you to sleep, and respond to that calling and make your dreams a reality? What do you think when I say that, Moki?
Getting out of your comfort zone. That calling is an answer to something that you've been asking for, that you've been yearning for, that you didn't realize you need in your life. If you trust that and you move forward with it, you'll be in places, you'll meet people that you never met before, places that you've never been to as well, but you'll realize how much that has helped you grow in this life.
No doubt. Good response there. And then lastly, Moki, is what about a message, a 45-second message to the Tongan women out there that are either in Tonga, because I'm on podcasts and I get featured on radio shows and podcasts in the Pacific, Fiji, Australia, New Zealand, right? And they see themselves as having to only have their place, and they shouldn't follow their dream until their family, husband, or someone else subscribes and goes, okay, I sign off, now you can do that. What's your empowerment to women out there that have kids, that you can have a great and amazing relationship with your husband, you could have kids, you could have a career and still work on your dream? What's your message to them, Moki?
For Tongan women, I will definitely say remember who you are. In the Tongan culture, women are very important. Yes, the man is the head of the household, but it's just like that saying. Whenever there's a what is it? A strong or successful man, there's a stronger woman behind him. And all you have to do is step forward and to show yourself. I feel like the Tongan women is capable to do anything and everything. I've seen that. They do everything and anything. And it's just basically trusting in the Lord and believing in yourself. And you having that confidence that you can do it. You do not need an approval from anyone else because you can change wonders. And we have seen women in our lives make changes in our family and in the decisions for our family that was for the best. It's been there. We've seen it. Just continue to do it and to remember who you are and your worth and what you can do.
Wow, so excited to see the woman that you have grown up to be, and the maturity in your voice, the audacity of your actions, right? Because success is a noun that works better as a verb, because without action, success is just a word, which comes
Yes.
directly from scripture, which says, faith without works is dead, like you said. So one last time, can you just let the listeners know how to find you on Facebook, Instagram, and your website, please, Moki?
Yes. On Facebook and Instagram, we are My Little Tongan, and our website is www.mylittletongan.com. So our books are available domestic and international. So we're definitely reaching out those who are international who's been asking for us. We are open for you.
Awesome, Moki. Thank you so much for coming on to the Coach V Show. We'll see you and Chris next time in a future episode. And to everyone watching, to go out, dream, dare to dream, and put action behind that dreams. Yes, there is going to be an outcome, but do not fear the consequences. He who created us in the image of him who created us has given us the ability to respond and adjust according to the circumstances, whether it's success and or failure. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach V Show. It is of great importance for each of us to better ourselves, just not for the sake of just ensuring or engaging success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities and that everything and anything that you will dream and work for can be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, author, and Hollywood radio show host lives, all about faith and family, grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, it is your author here, Mokiana, and then your boy, Coach V, bidding you a good night and God bless. Where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. Peace.